All right. We're here with Cornell Kevin. By the way, do you like that name, Cornell Kevin?
You know, at first I thought it was cheesy, but it caught on. So I'm just rolling with it.
It did. I noticed someone wrote in the comments. By the way, did you read the comments to the awards episode that we just did?
I didn't read the last couple now.
Oh, you're in for a treat because this guy wrote, I love Wayne and Zach, but who really brings it together is Kevin. And
really?
I have to kind of agree with the dude. I've said all along, me and Zach, we're clowns in this circus, and we needed a brain to come in, and thank goodness, Kevin, you did. And you grabbed these rankings and you took ownership of these rankings. And I love it. I appreciate you doing that. By the way, folks, it's up on begwrestling.com. By the way, these rankings are starting to appear on some big forums. Am I right?
Yeah, it's been real pleasant. I've noticed, besides the Penn State forum, they were on an Iowa forum, a Cornell forum, a Ohio State one. So, and none that I even asked. Like, I just went there and they were on there. You know, it wasn't like I was like, hey, can you guys put these on? Because all these forums, they do like a combined rankings. They'll put like flow, intermat, and ours were included in every one of them that I've seen. So,
well,
that's great.
What we're trying to start here is very, very hard to start. To get where you're considered a relevant, one of the respected rankings out there, and we have the ones we all know, the flow, the WrestleStat, there's 4 or 5 of them, and it's going to be, the one thing is it's going to be a battle. I know how much time you're putting into these. I also really respect the fact that, like, I'm going to say it, I see other rankings and I think, wow, every name that's on their rankings is the same names that's on like flow rankings here. Are we just looking here and then just doing like a mismatch or
I totally hear you.
I like what I see with your rankings. All of a sudden, names that I don't see in any other rankings, they impressed you, and they're there, and I respect that. And in every case, there's been a time or two I went and looked and watched a match. No wonder he was impressed. And so I like that. I like how independent you are as far as your decision making when it comes to these rankings. But I was hoping we could talk a little bit about the rankings.
Yeah, no, I really appreciate that. It's funny because when I first put them out, a lot of people were judging them by, well, I noticed that you got a couple guys on here that Flo doesn't have. And I was like, good, because when you're looking at some of these and they're all the same, it's like they're just looking at Flo and intermat and just making a combination of those two, where that's not what I wanted to do. I wanted to go through WrestleStat and each name, and without even looking at theirs, because I don't even want to be influenced by them. I won't look at theirs. I'll go through and do each one of them all the way to 33. So you're looking at 330 wrestlers plus another 70, which are kind of borderline being ranked. So that's like 400 wrestlers, So I appreciate that you noticed that, because it's something that, I think is important for us to be our own, unity as far as that goes.
And we've talked about, we just want to be original, whether people like us. There's going to be some people don't like us, some people that love us, but either way, we want to be our own thing. And whether it's the rankings or even like the podcast, I've watched all the podcasts, anyone I could possibly find as I'm driving down the road in the truck for years. Now that we're up and rolling, I find myself not listening to any podcast because I don't want to talk about the exact same things. And because the listener doesn't want us to talk about they already heard this. And quite frankly, on most of these other podcasts that are out there, they're all excellent podcasts, great opinions. But I want to hit on the stuff that no one's maybe thought about yet. And so I purposely find myself not listening to podcasts here late, just in a search for that originality, original thought, original content. But
You're spot on. You're spot on because it's that's what makes it fun. Nobody wants to watch and listen to the same thing over and over.
so I want to dive into these rankings, and I just ask as we skim through the weights. You have new rankings coming out within the next day or two. Am I right there?
Yeah, yeah. Tomorrow morning they'll be out. Tomorrow Tuesday morning. So actually, by the time this airs, they'll be out
Dude,
on our website.
I can't even imagine how much work we're talking about because we're talking about all the results that happened, whether it's in any one of these tournaments, Southern Scuffle or whatever. We had some duels. It's like it's a ton. I guarantee you've never been more knowledgeable about wrestling than you are right now. Is that a fair statement?
Absolutely. I mean, it's you got to know at least 40 guys at every weight. Like very familiar with them,
Yeah,
because
yeah,
and this like the weekend before, I didn't have to do a whole lot of movement, right?
yeah.
But this week, there's upsets I don't even think people are aware of because they weren't in maybe they're in a dual meet that people weren't really paying attention to. Um, and it's crazy. Like I was looking at it, I'm like, man, there's so many upsets right now that it's going to be, and it has been. It's been very challenging. Took a break to we could do this to make clear my head a little bit, but wow, there's so many upsets.
Well, I'm
It's
going to dive right into 125 here, and of
Mhm.
course, nothing's going to really happen up at the top, except we had the Caleb Smith loss, and I'm sure that's in your factor. Well, how far does he drop down? And I'll tell you another great 125 was oh, daggone, Macron's loss to
Yeah,
yeah,
Macron
Macron.
lost to Renteria.
Yes. And I watched that match. By the way, I thought that was brilliantly wrestled by Renteria. But is there some that stick out for you as big movers this week?
Yeah, I mean, first off, it's not often you get the 5 and the 6 ranked guy to lose. Another thing I've been taking note of is Nicolas Rivera from Wisconsin is still undefeated right now at 11-0. And then he's been kind of inconsistent, but Anthony Moulton from Campbell had 2 really good wins this weekend. He had one over Charlie Farmer from Army, who's ranked, and one over Antonio Lorenzo from Oklahoma. So that kind of surprised me, but he's definitely in there because Lorenzo was 24th, and Army we had at 26. So I mean, those are 2 ranked wins for him. But yeah, it's crazy. It's going to be nuts. But Renteria is at 16. He's definitely going to be moving up a few spots when you knock off someone at the caliber of Brandon McCrone. What I don't know, what's tough to figure out, and this is the kind of stuff that will stump you when you're doing rankings, is Northern Iowa put their backup Trevor Anderson in, and then he goes and he beats Caleb Smith, right?
Yes.
And you're like, okay, what does this do? Who are they starting? You got to kind of just go with one or the other. Are you going with Trevor Anderson, who has a lot of losses this year, or do you think they're going to stick with their other guy that they're starting? Stuff like that is kind of you're juggling, trying to figure out.
Yeah. Yeah. And I tell you another guy, you talked about Moulton. We went out and did that knockout Christmas classic down there in Florida, and he went 0-3 that day.
Yeah,
They were all 3 very tough opponents. And as I said to Zach, it wasn't so much that he looked bad as the other guys absolutely looked brilliant. So we know Smith and Macron are going to move down a little bit. Figueroa's got to be tough. What do you do with Figueroa? I
I'm
mean,
to the point now where if he's not in by next week, I'm just removing him because the way I look at it is that he's either in there and he's near the top or he's not in there at all. I'm not going to just lower him because he hasn't been wrestling. He's either in or he's not in. That's kind of how I
what
figure
about
it.
Diakom Hollis? Any word yet? When we'll get to see him? Or is there?
So,
Go ahead.
so I was starting to think that he was done, right?
Ooh,
And the Cornell Diakomahalis, because he had a neck brace on
Ooh.
in the NC State duel. So I'm asking around because I'm getting frustrated, right? I'm going, listen, Gray keeps saying full lineup, right? And then we go to Missouri or for the Missouri duel, and they had 4 starters out of their 10. So I kept pressuring on the forum, and they said that Diakama Hollis will be back within 2 weeks, and Unger will be back within 2 weeks. Vince Cornella is done. Vince Cornella is not coming back this year.
He actually wrestled hurt all of last year.
Yeah, he in February of last year, January 30th, he tore a ligament in his knee against Edmond.
Yep.
And then, he tried coming back for conferences, but Josh Saunders, his replacement, just beat Edmond and has been looking really good. So that's not, it's definitely I think personally, it's definitely a knockdown, but it's not too much of a knockdown. But then besides that, the heavyweight and the 97-pounder wrestled at the Edinburgh Open this past weekend. So they're going to be back. So I think that we have everybody. Yeah, we'll have everybody as soon as we get Diakama Hollis and Unger back.
Wow. Well, that's
everything's
actually
secret.
actually good news. That's good news. Because I've been anxious, quite honestly. The youngest Diakama Hollis, I can't wait for. He's Cornell also, correct?
197. Yep.
Yeah. By the way, has he ever wrestled Sammy or Sonny Sasso?
No, he just turned 17. He's really young.
Yeah.
So he's a little bit too young. But he's a Fargo champion, a world bronze medalist.
Yeah.
He's very good. He lost to Zach Ryder in the state finals 2 years ago. It was like 3-1 though. It was really close.
Dude, I'm going to move to 133, but I want to close by saying, you got something to cheer about for years to come, don't you?
The recruiting classes are just been crazy.
Yeah.
2025, Cornell has 8 out of the top 50, and they had 9 with Vega, but now they have 8 out of the top 50, and then 2026, they already have 4 out of the top 60, and that just began.
Kevin,
so it's crazy.
I know we can't make this a 6-hour recording, and I know I get accused for jumping all over the place, but I got to jump in here. Someone is telling me that, no, I read or something somewhere where there's major penalties for people that are going to want to transfer coming up with this whole profit sharing and the letter intents. I don't understand that whole mess, except that caught my ear because that's what I want. I don't want transfers. I don't want the Major League Baseball in college wrestling where you can just go out and buy a team whenever you want to. And no, I don't want it. I want it to be there, available, freedom. This is America. But it's got to be like the last option. Because you got to take some sort of hit there to sign up here and then screw you. I'm leaving for a big bag over here. So that perked me up. I'm sorry to jump around.
No, that's okay because on that note, they get rid of intent letters. They're getting rid of it because it's going to be just a contract that the athlete signs with the school, which has NIL in it.
Yeah.
Cornell and Ivy League schools, they've never had intent letters. They had these things called likely letters. How corny is that? Likely letters. Oh, let me get my likely letter.
I'd be embarrassed to tell people that's what we call
it. Likely letter. They couldn't come up with a better name. Someone's like, well, they both begin with L. It sounds cool. No, it doesn't.
Likely. What?
Yeah.
Well, that's hope. I spent for the last two and a half weeks a little bit on the negative side, and I'm fighting. I'm pushing that away. I want to get back to positive. I love this sport. I can't ever stop loving this sport. Part of me, I'm like a little 5-year-old at times. I'm not playing no more. I'm going to go to the UFC. You guys don't wrestle. I'm not even watching anymore. I can talk all I want to talk. I can't leave, Kev. It's gone.
No.
It's got to be. It's
Yeah,
got to
we
be.
can complain, but we're hooked, you
Yeah,
know?
I know. I know. All right, 133. As I look down through this, is there any particular names? I've seen Bergnick. Did I pronounce that right from Army?
Yeah.
He
Yeah.
he. I've seen he lost.
Yep. Yep. And he lost to Gable Porter from Virginia. Something interesting about Virginia, which I'm going to look at right now, uh, at the scuffle. Oh no, that's 41. Okay. But they also had two guys. Did they have two guys? No. So Gable Porter from Virginia beat Bergnick. But also, I thought Kyle Berwick from North Dakota State was interesting because he had a really big win over Borman from Chattanooga, and
Yes.
I was kind of ticked off because I was hoping that Borman would wrestle Bailey in the semifinals because he beat Bailey 12-3 2 weeks ago. So I was like, good rematch. And then he was up 4-0. He blew the lead and he lost in tiebreakers to Berwick, who ended up losing to Bailey in the semis. But he's tough, man.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. And I watched him tech Moulton, and Moulton just got fourth at Southern Scuffle, and I thought he looked good all weekend. But
Wow.
that Berwick caught my eye, and there's definitely a name I'm watching. He's tough.
He is
Whoever's
tough,
beating
and
it, you're gonna have to work to beat him.
yeah, he's on his third or fourth school too. He had some controversy. He was at Wisconsin, and they weren't going to let him go, or they weren't going to sign him to go, or something. So he like complained about it on social media, and then they had to let him go or something. I don't know what the deal is, but all that aside, he is tough, and he's one of those gritty wrestlers that just won't go away, you know. And
Yeah.
he
Yeah, absolutely.
he's
You
got a
know,
good character.
this Corey Land from northern Iowa didn't go in this big Nebraska duel, and I don't know. It's almost like Diakomo Hollis and so many others. We're left wondering how long will it be before we see him. How high up could this go? Go. You have him at 23 right now, but
Yeah, kind of a sneak peek. He will be out of the rankings. I am under the impression that he's not coming back this year.
wow.
That's what I've been told. So Farber is going to be their starter. He just lost to Van D in the dual meet. Him and Van D have wrestled 4 times. They split 2-2 now. But yeah, Farber will be in there, really low ranked. But Corey Land has been struggling with injuries, getting in the lineup.
Yeah.
He's always been tough, but and again, though, Wayne, we don't know what's wrong with him. We don't know what's going on because everything's a huge secret, right?
Yes. Yes. And of course, we have Minnesota's 8-1 sophomore Tyler Wells. By the way, Kevin, I gotta just tell you, your rankings give me everything I need to know. I want to know what class are they? I want to know what their record is. Like, and so many times I'm looking at records or rankings, and they'll give me the ranking, but my immediate question is, well, how good is this kid? And as it's neat to look down over the rankings, and you get way down there and you see like a 9-2 Zan Fugit from Wisconsin. Whoa, this freshman, how good is he? Right now he's ranked 25, but it's just it gives me a complete picture, and it's one of the things that I think is going to help to elevate BEG rankings into that legitimate um, uh, tier of
Thank
ranking.
you. I appreciate that. I try to make it as convenient as possible. And what I've been doing for myself, even Wayne, is I've been having an on my thing where I have a column where I have each of their losses listed to the right of their name. So I'm not having to go through. So I know like Wells, he lost to Dominic Serrano, right? Okay, Dominic Serrano, he just lost for the first time this weekend to Bailey. So I know who lost to who, and then I could kind of shift them through. But there's always a rhyme and reason on where we put the guys. But I know a lot of people, especially with the COVID era, they don't know what year these guys are. Are they junior, sophomore,
Oh,
senior?
I know,
And,
I know.
and, records are important. And I want it to be known that these guys that have already got 20 matches in, I want people to know that they're out there wrestling their butts off, and they should know that. And
Right.
these other guys that are wrestling not at all, I want them to know that too.
As we move to 141 and we look at our second ranked guy, Andrew Alirez, who sits at 3-0.
Yeah. Like,
Dude. And we had the Southern scuffle there. Like,
yep.
again, don't want to go down negative lane, but again, you got yourself in all this work, all this condition. Now, I don't know everything. Maybe you are dinged up. Maybe you got a hurt knee and maybe it makes sense to sit. And I understand that. But so many of them, with everything from all these guys that didn't show up at these holiday tournaments. And it's like, that blows my mind. But back to this 141, I don't know how. I mean, how do you pick anyone but Mendez to be the top dog here? Mendez
Yeah.
had consecutive wins over Bartlett. Alirez, we can't. Well, Mendez has that freestyle win over Alirez. But
Yeah.
other than that, we've seen this Brock Hardy. I could not have been higher on Brock Hardy about a year ago. And he's still very, very good. Don't get me wrong. But
Absolutely.
he finds a way to lose, doesn't he?
Yeah, he can be real frustrating. I first found that out when I saw him at the World Championships, and I'm like, this he's trying to lose this match or something. It was in the semifinal, and I thought he could win it, and he was just looking for ways to lose it. And he does have that in him, we kind of saw it firsthand.
Was that what influenced you to pick Happel during your Wrestle Madness? You had to be jumping and hollering and hooting when Happel.
Oh yeah, I was. Let me tell you, I went back and I noticed that Happel had won the last two against Hardy, and I was like, ooh, I don't think people know this, So I went in there. I'm like, I'm going Happel, but I was still kind of like, it was one of those picks where I'm like, I don't really know.
I know. I don't know.
But yeah, I was loving that cradle. And that's what's great about Wrestle Madness, man. I wouldn't have really given a crap about that match all that much if it would have been, I would have been watching it, but it gave me something to root for, which,
well, I've said that may be the toughest Wrestle Madness Pick'ems contest of the year. I mean, there was 7 matches I could have flipped the coin over. And of course, it seemed like everyone I picked, I finished second to last. The only person I beat was Zach, which.
Oh, Zach.
But it was still fun. I must just kind of say this right now. Wasn't quite as fun as the other times when I got third and second.
Yeah.
It wasn't as fun. But
no, it's not. I'll tell you what, though. This dual meet was fire. There was 10 matches, only one bonus match, right? Only Keckeisen, right? So then you got 9 decisions. Out of those 9 decisions, 7 of them were by 3 points or less, and 2 of them were in overtime.
Yeah.
So you had it all in there, and I was pissed because I was in first place all the way from the start to the 177, and darn Pinto there got that takedown at the end, and it killed me. And I just went right down the tube.
I've been there, dude. I've been leading late. And then the house of cards come falling down.
You drop too. You drop significantly. It's not like you go first or second,
But in the rankings, I think of how tough you have in certain situations. And once again, we have like a Chris Cannon at 18. He's 1-1 so far this year. Now, again, maybe we have some injury, and I don't know all the details. But put yourself in Chris Cannon's shoes, Kevin.
Yeah.
This is my last year. You know what? Yeah. It's got to be a pretty big injury for me not to wrestle. I don't get to do this anymore. It's not like he's going to be Olympic champ or something. Okay?
Yeah, you're right. Like, what are you doing, man? And to be honest with you, I have him ranked a lot lower than everybody else, but I'm not even knowing why I have him ranked. He's 1-1, and one of his losses is he got pinned by Jaden Gomez of Little Rock, like a Little Rock backup. He got pinned by him. So he's like hanging on by a thread. But to bring it back to Jesse Mendez Alirez, I
Yep.
know people go back and forth on that because they're like, their argument is, well, Aliris went undefeated when he won the title. Mendez didn't. And I'm like, I agree with that to a certain extent. However, Jesse Mendez since then has been at two CKLVs. He wrestles, he's what 15-0, right?
Mhm.
And he's got 12 more matches. I'm going to reward the guy that's out there wrestling and taking chances because to me, I think that's setting him up better to win that match when they wrestle. That's how I feel.
Can I ask you something personal about Jesse Mendez?
Yeah.
Okay, I like tough guys. I do.
Right.
But he's not endearing. Like I find myself rooting against him. Little snotty, am I right? A little
I
snotty. Well,
I root against him all the time. I think he's got and I feel bad saying it, but
I
he's
know.
got that kind of like not punkish, but kind of
Arrogant
just
little,
yeah,
yeah.
like when he wins, he's like, and it's like, dude, come on. It wasn't long ago you were sixth at 133,
Oh, wow.
and
But
yeah, he's doing great, but I find myself going, if he loses, I'm going to be pretty pumped just because
yeah,
of the attitude that he gives,
yeah,
but
yes.
he's good.
Only other thing that kind of sticks out is I see Masha Schwartz.
Oh, yeah. So that was such a weird match, Wayne. There's two things that I noticed at the scuffle that was strange about this weight. First of all, Jaden Scott, he's a dude that he grew up right down the road from me at Rush Henrietta High School, and he's at UNC, and we've had him ranked when nobody else does. We're the only one that's had him ranked, but it's because I know how good this kid is.
Yeah,
But he's wrestling Schwartz in the quarterfinals, and it goes into overtime, and they're both tired, and you can hear on the flow tape the coaches yelling, "Push him out of bounds! It's gonna be stalling. It's over with. Push him out!" So Jaden Scott's pushing right out of bounds, and then they're like, "It's stalling!" And then the ref looks around, he goes like that, and the match is over. And what is funny to me about that is fast forward to the dual meet between UNI and Nebraska, the same thing is happening with Taylor and Downey, where they're in overtime, and uh, Taylor gets two underhooks, and he's driving him right out of bounds, right? And
yeah.
Downey's squirming trying to get out, and he's screwed. And they go out of bounds, and the crowd is just silent because they know it's coming. And the ref stalling against Taylor. So I'm like, here we go. We have the same exact scenario with two officials calling it two different ways. And the thing is the way that the official called it against Taylor, that's the way the rules say. However, I can't name another time that a guy's been called for stalling for pushing someone out. So they can call you're right. You called it the right way, but you guys need to start calling it that way every time. You can't just pick and choose when you're going to do that.
Dude, I've said for how long? Literally, all D1 coaches or refs need to be together during a training session in an effort to all come together and be very close to one another. And
Yeah.
we got a lot of stuff, including reaction time. If you read the rules of what is reaction time, the definition of reaction time is a amount of time the ref determines is allowable. So it's completely up to the ref, which I understand. But what I'm saying is what most importantly, stalling, but in all areas, we want this ref to be the same as this ref or very, very close. And right now we don't have that. And we see some refs that they're so passive when throwing that fist in the air. I want to yell out at them and say, you are making this event boring, dude,
Yeah.
because make them wrestle, please. The whole
Yeah.
crowd wants to see some action. And
Absolutely.
you won't even throw up your fist. And
It's unbelievable. And you're right. And I want them to call it, just for the record, I want them to call it the way he called it against Taylor. I don't think it was right what he did, but
yeah,
I want them all to call that because we're not into the sumo business, right?
yeah,
And when a guy is pushing a guy out, he is stalling because he's breaking the action in the wrestling, and he's causing the match to stop, and he's looking not to score, he's looking to do the sumo push out. We don't have push outs in folk style.
Mhm.
So it says if the defensive wrestler is trying to circle back in, then you don't call him for stalling. And we see it all the time. Guys fighting to circle back in, guys pushing him out. So, yes, I think that they need to get on the same page. And as far as I'm concerned, the less gray area you have for these refs, the better, because it's not fair to them to have to decide this, and they shouldn't have to decide this.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
Yeah.
it's,
Couldn't not
so
agree.
anyway, Jaden Scott ends up winning, but then he ends up losing in the final to Dylan Cedeno, which from Virginia, which he is the backup right now to the starter they had there who got like 6th or 7th place. So that's something that I'm struggling with. I'm trying to find out is Dylan Cedeno going to continue to is he going to continue to red shirt, or are they pulling his red shirt, or what's the deal? Because he finished much higher than their starter. So yeah, I'm trying to see that actually right now. Virginia, here we go. So he is right now. No, they moved him to starter on WrestleStat anyway. And I'm looking at this article right here that says he's going to start. So Cedeno is going to actually be in there now instead of Kyron Butler was the starter up until this point. Interesting. Okay.
I'm going to move to 149.
Okay.
I'm going to kind of put you on the spot right out of the gates.
Yep.
Ty Wallen just had a close win against an obvious stud. Why can't think of who that is?
Sam Halligus, the backup.
And I'll tell you why we watched him down at the Knockout Christmas Classic. And
Yep.
You remember the West Virginia boy didn't wrestle, and Hilligus goes out, and I felt embarrassed because I should have known all of his accolades. And he was a big stud. But sometimes you can tell as soon as you watch a kid wrestle. As soon as you're watching how his feet's moving, you can tell right away. And I could tell right away, this kid's tough. But I tell you what, he almost took down Ty Wallen.
It was a crazy situation. I watched the duel because I wanted to see Whalen and Waters because Whalen beat him last year at a tournament. And so I noticed that they put 149 as the last match of the duel. And I'm like, this is perfect.
Yes.
So we get to 149, and what do? They don't send Waters out, right? So I think Whalen, it was Whalen's first match back from injury, right? So I think Whalen had kind of a letdown. He sees the backup come in, right? The backup puts him in a fireman's carry, throws him on his back. He's up 7-0. Then he gets another set of back points. He's up 9-0 in the first period. I go, holy cow.
Get out.
9-0. So then I'm watching, and all of a sudden, Whalen just starts coming on, taking him down, letting him up, taking him down, letting him up.
Wow.
Whalen ends up winning 17-13.
Yeah.
He just dominated him after that. It was second and third period.
Well, that says a lot about Hilligus. In fact, I said Ty Waters is top 5 because he's got a guy like Hilligus to practice with. But really what this says, on the surface, without watching the match, I was going to say, is this Ty Wallen as good as what we're all thinking? And by what you're saying there,
he's good.
Yes, he is.
He you know what? He went out there, he had a little rust on him, but what I saw him do to him after that, 9-0. So he outscored him 17-4 after that. He basically teched him after that. From that point on, He is really good. And he's very calm, cool. He's strong. He's big for the weight, and he's very good on his feet. And he is a stud on top. Yeah. You can't get away from him. So he's
Kevin. I just can't say how excited I am. As frustrated as I have been the past 2.5, 3 weeks, what's coming right in front of us, starting really January 10th. There's a big duel January 10th. I said it in the episode I recorded with Zach. But really, January 11th, January 12th, like they just start just hitting awesome duels. So I
Yes.
am super excited. And Ty Wallen against some of these guys, I can't wait to see how this all shakes out. Of course, we got Parco against Van Ness coming up at the end of the month. I mean, there's so much we're gonna learn.
Yeah, love it versus Van Ness in like a week.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah.
I know, and I'll
Hey.
tell you, right now, everybody, and a lot of people will listen to Christian Powers, and understandably so. The guy knows what he's talking about, and he's quite good at picking. I will give him a pick. He's won the daggone Wrestle Madness like 3 times in a row.
Yeah, he won it like the first 3 times.
Yeah, he's obviously good at what he does, right?
Mm-hmm.
However, if you're asking me who's the underdog, Van Ness or Lovett, I can't give you a name. I can't give you a name. I cannot say, well, Lovett's a slight underdog. Look how good Van Ness looks. And Van Ness does look good. But I can't. We're talking about Lovett here. And to me, that really might be one of the most entertaining matches of the year, Lovett against Van Ness. And it's coming up soon.
I'm going to tell you right now, I think Van Ness is going to major him.
Wow.
I do.
That's what I'm talking about. Wow.
I tell you what, I've seen too much of what Lovett has some holes in that armor. I saw it against Echemendia, where Echemendia took him down twice, right?
Yeah.
And then I saw in this duel yesterday, Rebuto just on a tear in that third period. So I'm thinking, you can't do that against Van Ness. You can't do any of this.
No.
So I don't know. I think that as tough as I think Lovett is, I think Van Ness is going to be too slick for him and too smart. That's what I think. I don't know.
You have to admit he's entertaining.
Yeah.
God.
Seems like that pick made you kind of happy.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I'm all for that. I'm gonna go to 157. And the obvious thing I'm gonna bring up here is if you're in a wrestling fantasy, Shapiro is the sneak pick. If your wrestling fantasy is so out of lunch that they don't pick him one of the top 5 picks, grab him at 6. As far as I don't know who can beat him when he looks, if he stays healthy.
I'll give people, there's a few things that, people don't really talk about because they're not in depth as much as I am about Cornell and this stuff, but a couple things for you. Meyer Shapiro, he's wrestled Antrell Taylor 3 times. Okay. It was the summer before this last one, and they wrestled in freestyle, and it was pin, tech, pin. Shapiro wiped him out, right? Then you look at Tommy Askey, number 6 ranked. Shapiro teched him twice last year. Teched him in folk style twice. I look at him, and he is on such a tear. Like Ed Scott, he wrestled 2 ranked guys, right, in the past week, and he had a combined 10 minutes of riding time between these 2 guys while he teched both of them.
Yeah.
And he DQ'd Ed Scott because Ed Scott couldn't move. Yeah. And then against Conway, he almost DQ'd him for Conway. He's forced all calls against Conway because these guys can't move and they just want to get away from him. And he's so lengthy. And right now, I mean, he scored 35 points like that on these 2 guys. I think that he's a bad matchup for Teamer, I think. I think Teamer is going to struggle because he can match his athleticism. I think he's got too much offense for Kazak. And I've already seen him against Taylor and Askey.
Downey's going to give him a fight.
Downey is going to annoy him. But the only thing I think of there is he's weirder than Downey is. They're both weird. Can you imagine what that match is going to look like? They're going to be rolling around like a couple of cats under a blanket. It's going to look like ridiculous. I mean, what are we in for that one?
What do I think of Meyer Shapiro is if I was anxious to get their first new individual champ since Spencer Lee, you better be looking at Ayala or Buchanan because it ain't going to be Teamer if Shapiro is healthy. And that's That's but I can't say enough about Downey. He looks like just that. Yeah, I agree with you. And
Oh, I'll tell you what. Like I said, Wayne, when I was in high school, I would have probably quit the sport after wrestling someone like Downey because it's so frustrating.
oh,
I mean,
yeah.
oh,
And quite frankly, I obviously Downey's going to move ahead of Taylor. I don't know how far down Taylor drops and stuff. Hippolito is fun to watch, but the thing is these people that are most entertaining to watch,
high risk.
high risk.
Yep.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
so what should have been a sure national title all of a sudden got into a throwing match. And when you're in a throwing match, sometimes it doesn't work out the way you planned. So
No. And looking at these rankings, right, before I update them, I mean, honestly, in Trell Taylor, he's 14-1, right?
yeah,
He's only going to go down one spot, and that's all about the what have you done lately for me. So Downey will be in front of him, but I can't drop him below ASCII per se because, like I said, I've seen ASCII get teched twice by Shapiro, and he did lose. He did finally lose this year. Who did he lose to? He lost, and it was someone that wasn't. I was kind of surprised that he lost to. Let me see here. It was Jared Hill. He lost to from Oklahoma 3-2. So I cannot put Antrell Taylor before or below ASCII, who I have at 6. So he's only going to move down a spot. I would love to see Hippolito and Shapiro just go nuts on each other. That would be like it would be almost as good as Andonian and Shapiro.
yes, or love it. And that's one of them matches that as I'm being depressed by someone not wrestling, please just focus on
They do. They wrestle in the duel. Actually, they have a duel meet against Virginia Tech coming up.
Focus what's coming.
And,
oh yeah,
that's going to be fire.
I'm going to go to 165 here, Kevin. And the very first thing that pops out to me, would any of us be shocked if it's Messenbrink and Scholes in the finals? Because I've seen a little kink in the armor with Caliendo. But maybe that's unfair because he's done well. He's 10-0, and he's had a couple matches where it just kind of caught me by surprise he didn't run away with this.
Yeah. He's definitely not invincible. I do like the way Peyton Hall has been wrestling this year. He seems to be someone that's very positionally sound.
Yes.
He doesn't like Hunter Garvin is scary to wrestle. I know he doesn't have the best record this year, but he's someone that can take out just about anybody, and he cannot solve Peyton Hall. He did last year at Nationals. He beat him 14-4, but since then, Peyton Hall's so positionally sound that Hunter Garvin's, extracurriculars, they just don't matter to him. He can't do it. So
you talked about this previously with Hunter Garvin and Hamidi, where they had these huge leads, and really they had a major going on, and then they gave up a major to ultimately lose. Yeah. And when that happens, like, I'm sorry, am I being too critical to say we're either completely out of shape or our wrestling IQ needs to improve?
We're smoking a pack a day.
At some point, I hate to say this, but you have to know when there's a time to stall or slow things down. I got a big lead. You know what? I don't have that spunk I had at the beginning of the match. You recognize yourself wearing down. You wrestle smart at that point and understand the score. How do you get, of course, when you're up against a Mitchell Messenbrink, it's tough.
Yeah, I mean, Messenbrink is and people have laughed when I've said this, but they're like, who, if they beat Mitchell Messenbrink on this list, would you be the least shocked? And the answer is Hunter Garvin. And I'm going to explain why.
Wow.
Hunter Garvin, I've seen him do things to Caliendo and other guys that nobody else can do. Like even Peyton Hall last year. He has the talent to take down anybody. And I wouldn't say it about anyone else, but he would have to catch Messenbrink in a pin. That's the only way he could possibly beat him. But that also says how highly I think of Messenbrink, whereas he ain't losing. He's not going to lose.
But the point you're making is legit. These people that are explosive,
Yeah,
can shock you on the things they can accomplish. Now it's a matter of spreading out that energy, that you can still be explosive at the end of the match if you need it. I don't know, but
Skulls, like you said, those Skulls though, that's a great point. Skulls, for anybody that doesn't know, he's a winner. Now he's been down pretty big in matches this year. Nico Ruiz took him down twice in the first period like that. Then he ends up pinning him. Cameron Steed took him down 2 or 3 times in the first period. He ends up getting DQ'd because he quit. Skulls was hit on him. This guy's got a gas tank. And he just was like, no mas. It was done.
Yep. And there's how valuable was that? Really, we're talking about a Messenbrink trait.
Yeah.
I mean, it just never ends.
Yeah, he's tough.
Yeah.
For sure.
All right, I'm going to go to 74 here. And the very first thing I want to ask you about, of course, is this time off that Keegan O'Toole will take. And there's speculation it's an MCL, ACL, both. Sprain that he's going to rest, get whatever. And wow, yes, that was impressive. He beat Levi Haynes with this injury. But don't put too much in that. You're pumped full of adrenaline, much less who knows. He might even
who knows what else.
Yeah, he might even took a shot to.
Yeah.
But either way, it was still impressive. I'm not going to take, but my concern is it is Levi Haynes and it is Dean Hamidi, and you're talking about an entire month off. And he's not taking off unless he's literally going to sit and heal. So you can't say it has no effect. It absolutely will. He'll have a month. He'll have a month to get back in shape. I'm just saying, it is a month enough? He can get back with O'Toole. I guess I would say yes. But
it's
what's
tough
your
to
thought?
say, though. I don't know, because I watched like when Shapiro hit his head there at CKLV. I know he wasn't allowed to practice because of his head, and he was beating people, but he looked like he was struggling to breathe, and it took him a little while, and everyone was like, oh, his gas tank, yada yada. But when you're out, it's not like these guys can ride exercise bikes and they're getting that same endurance you do when you wrestle in a match. There's nothing like wrestling to get you ready for wrestling. And I would, if I was him, I'd be concerned. And also, you got to think, when he comes back, he's going to have to wrestle Hamidi at the dual meet and Hamidi at conferences. So right away, we're going to kind of know where he's at. But to me, it's a coin flip who wins that nationals at that weight between those two. I don't know.
Yeah, to me, this Norman, we right now you have Patrick Kennedy 5th, and we don't know if that's going to be the guy. It would seem really dumb not to have Patrick Kennedy your guy.
And
wow.
Well, and let me just say, the rumors out there about, that they put on the wrestling room thing about, oh, he's not in the lineup, blah, 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 blah. That's crap. Like, Jason Bryan actually asked, like, why is Patrick Kennedy not listed? They said it was just like a typo thing, and it's fine. He's in the lineup.
You mean on the website? He's not listed as a team member.
Yeah, it was just a mistake. Jason asked. So all the stuff you're seeing, like Pat, whatever his name is, put it on the thing. It's all it's garbage. It's nothing to look at.
Yeah.
It was just an error. And Jason Bryan asked him, and he said, question asked and answered. So I will say,
either way, I mean, just put yourself in them shoes. Whether you're Tom, Terry, and we're talking about a son and a nephew, and a great wrestler. Let's be honest, a great wrestler.
An All-American, yep.
But quite frankly, Patrick Kennedy is making things very difficult. And also, they're going to take heat from their fan base, whatever decision he makes. And
He's
I almost want to sit Patrick Kennedy down and say, "Thanks a lot, pal. Yeah,
yeah.
why couldn't you stank it up a little bit,
He
please?"
he's a fan favorite, and I've always said this, and you know this. You got to go with a guy who's going to score you the most points at NCAA's. It doesn't matter who wins between the two. And right now, I'm not seeing Brands placing any higher than Kennedy, and I'm definitely seeing Kennedy score more points than Brands, though.
Yeah,
So that's the guy that's going to score you the most points. That's who you go with. One thing that I wanted to definitely give a shout out to, which I thought was just awesome, was Sergio. I don't. Of course, I'm going to pronounce his last name wrong. Desante from Chattanooga.
yes,
Um, the first Southern Scuffle champion ever for host Chattanooga, and what he had to do to win it was knock off John Worthing, who's ranked in the quarterfinals,
yep,
uh, then Wolak in the semis, and then a
yep.
really tough Gavin Sachs, who only lost to Hamidi like 4-0.
And them
Um,
two were like 8 and 6 at certain rankings. Like they're
yeah,
top 10. And
Yeah, he knocked off two top 10 guys back to back and to win that tournament. And I have him ranked. I had him ranked. Let's see, 30. I think 33. I did have him ranked, which was good, 33. But he's going way up. I mean, he's only got one loss on the year.
yeah,
He just didn't have any competition before this. That I saw reason to move him up. But
yeah, and there's no doubt how good he looked doing it too. It
and
wasn't
what?
fluky. I mean,
No.
he
Uh,
won that match. But
Speaking of fluky, what happened to Wolak? He lost 3 times this
dude,
weekend.
dude, I don't know. Maybe he hit a period of being overwhelmed. School, I don't know. All them questions that arise.
It
But
was bad.
wow, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm going to go to 84 here. Um, this the first thing that kind of pops up to me. I mean, this is a weight class that it comes down to two guys, but the real question is, we were hoping got answered during the soldier salute and didn't, and that is, how good is this McAnally? He's 10-0. I know. Um, it could have been fantastic to see the gauge, whether it was Ferrari, McAnally, Arnold. I mean, throw Bennett in there, Bennett, Berge, throw all four of them. That that stung. That left a
Yeah.
bad taste. That's the single thing that really upset me the most. And you can't always get what you want. I used to
But you
sing that
can.
song to my kids when they were growing up. Did you ever do that?
Oh
Do
yeah.
Kev,
Can't always
with your
get
little
what you
guy?
want.
Yeah, when he's whining something, just
Yeah, yeah,
break in the song. Break
yeah.
in the song. They will grow to hate that song.
So much that they won't ask for anything anymore. I'll tell you what. You can't tell me that there was any other reason that McAnally didn't wrestle other than the Minnesota coaches wanted them not to wrestle the Iowa guys before the dual meet and have any kind of gauge on who they should wrestle against them. I don't. You're not going to tell me he was sick or injured or anything. You're not going to tell me anything other than that
Yeah,
because
yeah.
it's too much and people
Kevin,
aren't stupid.
if
You
I
know.
that's if I was the richest man in the world and I was looking for some way to entertain myself, I'd throw some big bucks out to have a round robin little contest. I would have Plot. I want to know where Plot sits, where McAnally sits, where Gabe Arnold sits. Throw Ferrari in there. Throw maybe even Foca in there.
Do you see Foca this week?
Yeah, even throw Foca in there. I want to see where they all five kind of sit in comparison with each other.
Yeah.
Is
It's
Plot the clear number three? Because I don't know. I don't know. And that's the questions. Someone would say that no, Ferrari would probably win that round robin. But
I probably would agree with you. I think Ferrari is a bad man. I think that I do. You know what I like about him? He has that very quiet, swag where
Yeah.
I respect that a lot. He's got
Oh,
that quiet, like he's going to do his talking on the mat, and I just like his demeanor. I really do. I think that he's a quiet,
you know,
silent killer.
this probably outdates you. Back in the day, Clint Eastwood had westerns like The Good, the Bad, the Ugly,
Yeah,
Full of Dollars and stuff, and he something about Angelo reminds me of that character. Clint Eastwood's character would come in and you don't want to mess with this dude. You do not want to mess with this
those
dude.
quiet ones. You got to be worried about those quiet ones. And I'll tell you what, Angelo is scary. He's just a quiet, like, you can tell he's always thinking, and I think he's just going to be an animal. And but you're right. Looking at these guys, I know people were ripping on me for ranking Foca high, but you know what? He came out, he whooped Dylan Fishback last week, and then he whooped Colton Hawks, who everybody except us had ranked in front of Foca,
Yeah.
and he majored him 9-1. And I told people, I go, Foca put on weight. He put on weight this year to wrestle this weight. And he has the talent level. He when he was the same weight as Plot last time, he pinned Plot at NCAA's in the first period. He's got that talent level. We'll see, we'll see where he ends up, but don't sleep on him just because of his result last year. He was very, very light for that weight class last year. It was a stupid move to have him go 184 last year.
Okay,
But
I'm gonna move to 197.
yep.
I guess putting you on the spot again here. You may not be able to know or right out of the gates, just off of memory. How long do we got to wait before we see AJ Ferrari against a high-ranked opponent so we can gauge where this guy's at?
Unfortunately, are they in the Big 12? I think they are. I think they're in the Big 12. It might be where we don't see him up against anyone outside of, like, we'll see maybe Serber or Little at conferences. But him not going to CKLV it really sucked, because Cardenas and him would have been a very good gauge.
AJ, just in case you're watching, that was a message to me, Joe fan, that you don't want to admit it, but you know what? I'm not quite ready for them guys yet. I need to do some more training over here. It's been a while since I wrestled, folks. I'm not real confident. That's the message I took, AJ. I don't know what other message I'm supposed to take. Why do you not take that opportunity to smash these people and blow up your social brand that you like so much? Because there was an opportunity.
And I'll be honest with you, and I'm a Cardenas fan because of he's been his whole career at Cornell up until this year. I think Ferrari is a really tough matchup for Cardenas, because Cardenas is, I don't know if you've ever seen this guy. I've seen him quite a few times in person. He is built like a brick shithouse. He is just huge.
Yeah.
And he dominates a lot of people based on strength in that blast double. Well, Ferrari obviously has strength. And the thing about Ferrari is he's so hard to take down. He might not have the most offense, but he's hard to take down. So
yes, I agree.
If anything, if you're Ferrari, I would have went in there, even if you lose to Cardenas, gauge where you're at, what you got to work on, and do it when it matters.
Yes.
Right?
Back to what I was talking about, a loss. People have to get a loss out of their heads, that it's a terrible, terrible thing, a loss. In many ways, a loss is good in the sense of how it takes the pressure off. You learn something from the match, and most cases, it gives you a drive that it's hard to self-generate. It's a natural push drive that implants itself inside you. But, who knows? We might have to wait until conferences to see anything of substance. And I don't right now say Ferrari against Buchanan in the finals or semis, because we don't know how that would shake out. And if you're not going to wrestle anybody, by the way, AJ, don't be surprised if you got Buchanan in the semis. But
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised if Ferrari won it going away 6-1. And I wouldn't be surprised if Buchanan kind of just dominated him. Now,
Yeah.
on paper, you'd say this is going to be close because just like you said, because his positioning is so tight, his defense is so tight, boring, but it's going to be
Yeah.
tough to beat him. But
Yeah.
I anyway,
Buchanan, I think, to me is the hands down favorite. I think that even with Cardenas, from what I saw, I just think he's the hands down favorite. But like you said, you know what? Who cares about a loss? I mean, can you tell me this? Can you answer me this? Outside of Cal Sanderson, which one of the four timers had the least amount of losses outside of Cal Sanderson?
um, wow,
You,
uh,
pre-
it,
and you probably don't really know, right?
it, I I don't know. Aaron Brooks is in the he's in the. I mean, he had that loss to Vince. He had the loss to the Michigan kid. I'm trying to think. He didn't have a whole lot, but
I'll
yeah.
give you a clue. I'll give you a clue. Who's asking you this question?
Oh, Cornell.
Okay, so listen.
So it's Jan. It's Jan.
My point is, who gives a crap, right?
That's right. Yes. Yeah.
And
That's right. Thank
yeah,
you.
yeah.
Yes.
Who
You're driving
cares?
the point home right there.
Yes,
Yep.
absolutely.
Wow. Well, that was brilliant, Kevin. By the way, I will just say that I was glad to see that they're going to redshirt Sinclair. Makes finally that
Yep.
makes sense. By the way, enough. They're redshirting Angelo Ferrari also. Enough.
Yeah.
But they're redshirting Sinclair. Makes sense. Maybe he can even go down to 84. But we talk about how it's tough for even a stud freshman to come in at these upper weights. And Sonny Sasso, that was on display this past weekend because, quite frankly, he might have took third, but he could have very easily had two losses because
Yeah, he pinned his guy for third. You know how he's been out most of the year? He has the most pins in the NCAA this year with 11, and he's
wow,
been out. He's been out like
wow.
the majority of the year, and he's just pinning everyone. But how
Well,
exciting is this 184 going to be with these young guys when you have Zach Ryder and McNally and
yeah,
Angelo
oh
and
yeah.
and then Sinclair? Don't be surprised if a couple of these guys go to 97 to wrestle Barr, and Barr I think will stay at 97 because 84 is going to be so packed.
I I don't know that whole thing because Barr handled Mirasola in the Black Knight, but Mirasola looked good. Both Mirasola
Yeah,
look good, and quite frankly, you think uh, with I was thinking, wow, this is going to be a war having Sonny Sasso make the finals against Connor Mirasola. I don't know if Mirasola can beat him because he's so tall, he's so good, and then Sonny Sasso showed, yeah, he's a freshman and he's shooting.
yeah. Oh yeah. He's not there yet. He's not on that level. He's very you can tell because he's kind of like a Hamidi. He will dominate the guys that he's better than. He
Yeah,
will blow their doors off. But there's guys that he just cannot beat right now. And I was wondering how you would think about the Marisolas because I know you've given them grief before.
I was
Um,
impressed with both of them. And the one thing, Cole, the bigger one, the heavier one,
yeah,
I was every bit as impressed with him as I was Connor. And
yeah,
I was worried about Penn State's 285-pounder next year. And
yeah,
yes, he needs to put size on. There's no doubt. However, like what he did to number 23, the Army dude, who
yeah,
had to have 60, 70 pounds on him. It was almost laughable watching them go. And I'm moving to 285 here, but that was almost laughable watching it. But he dominated him. It was 9-0, and he was not afraid to go underneath. How many times we see this, whether it's high school or college, where there's a big size difference. The smaller guy is afraid to go shooting. Well,
yeah.
the thing that meant nothing to Cole. He shot over and over and did it successfully. So do I think he could be a podium guy at 285 next year for Penn State? Yeah, I think so.
Why not?
Yeah. Because we don't know. Maybe younger Bastida's even gone too. Of course, Stevenson's gone, Kirklevitz's gone, Hendrickson's gone. Maybe Bastida's gone if he turns out he wrestles this year. And after that, I mean, to me, Ty Gaudiali he impresses me too. But
there's 10 of the top 14 guys leaving at 285.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you what, the guy that Cole beat from Army, he's a world bronze medalist this year.
Yeah, it was an impressive win. And, Schultz will be gone. And thank goodness. And nothing personal. But, and Feldman, it was good to see him back on the mat because I was thinking he broke some ribs or something.
Oh, yeah. I was happy to see that, too. That was good. And not to jump around too much, but real quick, I was pretty pissed off when I watched the dual meets continuing to go with Oregon State and Ohio State. Why in the world was there no Trey Munoz, no Ethan Stiles, no Singleton? Why? If I was Ohio State, I'd say, you know what? We're not going to wrestle you next year. We're not even going to waste our time. If you're not going to bring your guy, we brought our guys. You know what?
Yes. And I tell you that, thank you for saying that. You talk about next year and stuff and, Keeter and Feldman, I still would like to see them two wrestle because I think that would be a good match. Feldman fell down my opinion meter quite a bit.
Yeah. From that All-Star, right?
Well, a couple times. I was thinking he was Mr. possible contender. No, not yet. But it was, quite frankly, I hope between me and you, Kevin, I hope Bastida actually does go this year because you talk about wide open next year. Whereas if Bastida comes back next year, I think, to me, Bastida and Gaudiali clearly.
Well, Gaudiali's a senior.
Oh, is he? Oh, no.
Yeah, I mean, you got Stevenson.
That's right. You have it listed right there, and I'm not even looking. Dang.
Yeah. Literally, you got Isaac Trumbull next year. Isaac Trumbull, Nick Feldman,
yes,
Ben Keeter. And I know I'm going to get grief for this, but I got to be honest with you. Ben Keeter, I haven't been blown away by him. I was more blown away by him in the freestyle season than I am in this folk style season.
Yes.
I don't know. I picture Isaac Trumbull and Nick Feldman kind of hammering him.
This is where we can pick up some bad comments to this episode. But, Keeter, he doesn't look real swift of foot. Coordinated swift of foot. Is that where you're coming from too?
Yeah,
and little mechanical. Mechanical kind of. I don't know something. It's not a fluid. It's definitely not Gable Stevenson.
No, and looking at him though, he's 8-1, right? And that's great. But I'm looking at his matches and I'm like, all right, he won 1-0 over the Minnesota backup, who he is good.
Yeah.
But he won 0, and then
he could have easily lost that.
What's that?
He could have easily lost that.
Oh, I know. And then C.J. Carter, the Iowa State backup, he beats 5-1. Sebastian Garibaldi from Princeton. Who is that? He beats him. He doesn't major him. He doesn't major. I don't know. I'm just looking at this. Brett Maurer from Oregon State. He doesn't major. He's not really I'm not like, whoa, so.
Yeah. All right, Kev. The BGWrestling.com. You can find these rankings, folks. The newest edition, newest updates coming within the next 24 hours.
Yep.
So let's do it again, Kevin, as this year unwinds. I love talking your rankings. I know you put a lot of work into it, and I like looking stuff over. And I'd love to find some stuff I could drill you on. And we could have a bit of an argument right here, but at this point, I can't.
Well, don't speak too soon. You know, I'm sure we're going to mix it up this week.
All right, dude.
All right. Thanks, Wayne.
All right, later.
Yeah.